Tom here from Esports GG. I'm here with John Larson of the Respawn developer team. John, what can we expect in terms of balance changes to weapons in the Season 21 update?
Yeah, one of the bigger things is the infamous wingman coming out of the care package without an extended mag. So it's always going to have 6 bullets unless you find the boosted loader. And the Devo will be replacing it. So the care package Devo from early days, this feels like that, but even better, honestly. Other than that, we have the longbow getting a bit of a buff to smooth out the loot chase on it, make it a bit more approachable and easy to use. And then outside of weapons, we have the digi threat being removed from the loot pool altogether, and then some quality of life stuff around banner retrieval and armor swaps when you're picking up your teammate's banner.
You mentioned, obviously, the digital threat being removed. I feel like there's been changes to that a couple of patches in a row. Why have you chosen to just completely take that out of the game now?
The digi threat, as you mentioned, had received a few different changes. The most recent one had been kind of restricting the types of weapons it can go on, and it just has become increasingly niche in terms of its place in the meta with being a loot item that counterplays against, a couple legends pretty strongly. And so we could just kind of, in talking with both the legends team and the weapons team, just kind of took a step back and thought about vaulting it for a bit and seeing how we can address gameplay around smoke and vision through smoke. What can a gold optic mean in Apex? It's been the same for 20 plus seasons, and we thought there's probably opportunity for change there. So in the meantime, just kind of cleaning up some of the niche hidden power around it and seeing where we can go from there.
And the gold sniper optic still in the game at the moment?
Yep, still in the game. I was actually just talking with Eric, the BR systems lead, in game 1, watching Monsoon with the 4x10. And I think similar situation where it's pretty niche, and many games you won't even come across one, or when you do, you might not be in a situation where you want to equip it. So I could see that being another candidate for something to think about in terms of what digi threats mean holistically in Apex.
And then one of the other areas that there's been a lot of changes in recent Apex updates is the balance between shotguns and SMGs. Do you think we're at a point now where you guys have found the balance that you're looking for, or is there still work to do?
I mean, I hope we haven't found a perfect balance, because otherwise I'd be out of a job. So it's ever shifting. We were intentional about getting SMGs a little bit out of the limelight this time around, thinking they've been dominant in one form or another since the car came out. It's been car, Bolt, R9, take your pick. And so in thinking about close quarter combat and the balance with shotguns, that was something we were wanting to push. I think what's kind of stood in now is we have like the Havoc as a pseudo SMG with the generous 36 round purple mag. So still some work to do there, I think, in terms of shotguns still feeling inconsistent at times, and ARs just still serving as like a more consistent option for many players. So more to come.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about the Havoc. Obviously become incredibly popular amongst pro players. We're seeing a lot of Havoc already here at the AO Just Spit One playoffs. Is that weapon getting any changes, or is it something that you guys are still like reviewing and looking at?
Not at the start of 21. So something we're still looking at. More to come.
More to come. And then I wanted to ask, obviously we know that you play the game a lot. That's kind of how everybody's come to know you in the Apex community, from being, a player who's then become a dev. What sort of weapons are you picking up at the moment? What's like your go-to loadout in Apex?
Generally it's Havoc and Havoc. If I'm running ballistic, I'll oftentimes throw a Havoc in my sling and have a Havoc also just as my secondary. But I've been running a lot of Sentinel lately. Like, I feel like since the 30-30 nerfs kind of come in, it's opened up different marksman options a bit. I think people sleep on the damage potential of that gun. I mean, you can stop a push, 70 damage at a headshot, you're up at 120-ish damage. And it's just a fun gun to use. So I've been using Sentinel, Havoc, all energy weapons in general too. I'll hold until generally I find a Havoc.
Is there a weapon that you think is a bit slept on that people aren't using? It seems like people sometimes seemingly discover weapons and they haven't actually been changed for a long time, and then like the Havoc where everybody's suddenly using it.
Sentinel, as I mentioned, but then even like the L-Star, it's nice off drop, assuming you can find enough ammo for it, to just not have to deal with the reload, to kind of keep the push up when everyone's on white armor. And I think, once you get some reps with it and get used to the recoil and the bounciness of the recoil, I think it's actually a pretty fun weapon to use. So shout out Reptar for always running that. Yeah. I think people probably are sleeping on some other energy options and then other marksman options. So we'll see if the longbow does something there too in 21.
We'll have to see. I wanted to ask also, from an LGS point of view, obviously Alter's joining the Apex Games in Season 21. got some really sort of like groundbreaking abilities for Apex Legends. Do you think we might see her maybe at the Split 2 playoffs?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure we'll see experimentation early and often. In terms of like my predictions for alter use in comp, the tactical is obviously like the heart and soul of that kit, I think, and it feels really good. It's pretty snappy. But at the top end, I think you'll still have to be pretty coordinated to push off a successful breach. And then the ultimate might require a bit too many steps to feel snappy enough at the top end. So we'll see how people experiment with that. I feel like in comp, yeah, I think mastery around the ult will be key to success with alter.
So yeah, we might see some alter in the future, but someone that we're definitely seeing a lot at the moment still is Bangalore. Were you surprised that pros are still using her to such a high extent, even after the quite substantial changes that you brought mid-season?
Yeah, a little bit. Part of the reason that a lot of the legends in the can't see shit meta aren't getting hit too hard in 21 is because we don't want to gut these characters for the masses. You know, we might take a wider swing in mid-season update, but I thought we'd get a little more variety. But I don't mind Bangalore in comp in terms of what it provides for micro rotations. I think that's important. But I guess what the last suite of nerfs showed is that we really didn't change anything about the core like gameplay loops or design around Bangalore. Like you have to be a little bit more selective about smoke, but it still is at the end of the day smoke. And so, you know, the pros still recognize that it's not really shifting much in terms of how you play in and around it. So there's more we can do, especially with upgrades, is balancing levers.
And I wanted to ask something that you kind of always see, usually in replies to your tweets, right, is like, oh, thanks at professional player 1, professional player 2, when a change happens. Where do you guys draw the line in terms of like looking at the wider community and the pro community when making balanced decisions? You know, what is are you considering both? Is there one you consider more than the other?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's really not an exact science. It depends on a lot of factors. If something is problematic in comp, and I say problematic from both like a player frustration and also like viewership experience, we're less hesitant to like act quickly and take wider swings. But if something is sort of meta at the top end for a while, like I thought Gibby meta was actually a pretty compelling meta at the top end in terms of bubble fights and kind of what they meant, and they were fun to watch. I felt that while Gibby was in the meta for a while, like we didn't feel as much of pressure to shift that as much as we were with like Catalyst meta and every end game ending with like 3 walls going on at the same time. But we are, you know, a massive online game, and we have plenty of data to look at and kind of either confirm our suspicions or bring other things to light that we have not thought about or seen. So there's not like I can't really give a number of like we give 50% comp, 50% casual. Like we want things to work for all, but sometimes that speed of change is influenced by competitive.
And then in terms of Legends, are there any notable changes coming in Season 21 that you're particularly excited about?
Probably won't affect many players, but might shake up things in comp is Fuse getting the ability to scan consoles. He's pretty good at economy management with the amount of damage he can do from his tactical from range. And he's a strong caustic counter. So I'd be curious if we see any sort of movement there. I think Newcastle becomes a lot more approachable for a lot of players. Like we see NTH running Newcastle Watson today, and I love that they're experimenting with that, but like I think giving him the utility intrinsically as part of his own kit to sort of deny nade spam, I think more players will just find more success cases with his kit. So I'm eager to see how people receive the Newcastle changes, and I think Crypto becomes a lot more interesting with his upgrade tree in 21 as well.
What's changing about Crypto's upgrade tree in Season 21?
Well, we're integrating the network expansion upgrade into his baseline kit. So every time you throw out your drone, you'll get a squad call out for squads in the area. You'll also always see the squads in area banner display. Anytime your drone's active, you don't have to be in drone view to see that. And then for upgrades, the level 2, we have a handling upgrade paired with the existing range increase. And then level 3, we have a reduced cooldown and speed boost if your drone is destroyed or when you deploy your EMP, and that's paired against a lingering scan that'll reveal enemies for longer even when LOS is cut off. And so these are kind of targeted at, I guess, different sorts of crypto play styles where you might like piloting your drone more or less, and what does the drone provide you and your team. Just giving players more agency to kind of flex into crypto in different ways.
And then I asked you what sort of guns you're using. What's your favorite legend to play? Who are you maining at the moment?
I've been liking Pathfinder and ranked, maybe a Revenant if I have a strong conduit with me.
Yeah. It's a combination.
Yeah. That's something else we're actually hitting in 21 that I think has been under the radar. We haven't really talked about too much in dev panels, but we're hitting that specific synergy a bit. I run Skirmisher. I like flying around the map in ranked, but I also like Controller. If it's a World's Edge Day, I'll run Caustic. I think Catalyst is being slept on a bit. Like, I know she was hit hard. She's getting some love back in 21, but Catalyst is fun. So I generally flex between a Controller or a Skirmisher type.
You mentioned Catalyst as a legend that slept on. Is there anybody else that you think people just aren't really using that maybe they should take a second look at?
Ballistic's an interesting one that I've had fun using. I think he gets, I guess, a lot more potential around his kit that sort of unlocks with the upgrades, especially a new one we're giving him in Season 21 where his sling levels up with him. So for players that like using their sling weapon outside of the ult, like leveling that up and getting access to different optics and better attachments outside of ult, I think is interesting if you like juggling that. But even then, I think like Ballistic could fill some of the role of Bloodhound if they ever fall down a bit, if their stocks ever decrease with the can't see shit meta. I encourage people to experiment with Ballistic.
I'm all here for it. He's British, so why not?
Yeah.
And then finally, I wanted to ask, obviously, Broken Moon also getting some big changes. I know that's obviously not what you've been working on, but have you had a chance to play it? And how have you found the changes as one of the devs that probably plays the most?
Yeah, it feels awesome. Yeah. I think something that the maps team has been pushing on more with map updates is looking at the map holistically and targeting smaller changes even just around different parts of the map. So I think a lot of different chokeholds and rotations have been improved. You know, Steve Young, our lead level designer, he's called out like an update to the connective tissue of the map. A lot more little spill-off camps and pockets of loot. Just interesting like terrain through different choke points that we didn't have, I guess, in the first iteration. And then obviously the elephant in the room being Promenade, creating some fights in instances that were just hard to read. And Quarantine Zone is like a major upgrade in terms of that center of the map POI, just feeling a lot better for multi-squad fights.
So you're not going to miss Promenade?
Yeah, rest in peace, Promenade. Good riddance.
I don't think there's anything more to say other than that. John Larson, thank you so much for taking the time. Looking forward to jumping into Broken Moon and testing out all the things you guys have been working on.
Thanks.
Thanks for watching. For more coverage of the ALGS, follow our Twitter and visit esports.gg.